Man.
All right. What is up, everybody? It's been a whole 10 minutes and back with another MMA breakdown. I said that the last one was the LFA breakdown at the beginning before Lewis corrected me. This is the LFA 118 breakdown show. Loveth Young taking on Jacqueline Amariem for the LFA Straweight title in the main event. Also, we've got Avalos, a brother. We've got a few other intriguing prospects along the way here. Just put up the Bellator breakdown show. I'm sure a few of us are joining us from that. Featured presentations I know is over there. A few others I'm sure are here. But we're going to go ahead and jump in. Before we do, though, Lucky Locks joining us from a new locale without his headwear. He does have a top of his head. What's going on, man?
How's it going? Yeah, no hat today. Must have gotten lost in the luggage somewhere. But yeah, it's good. In a hotel room right now, so hopefully internet stays good. But yeah, we got a good LFA card coming on Friday, and excited to get into it.
Yeah, man. Thank you as always for joining us. This is going back home, going back to where it all started with the LFA here. We are gonna just go with the main card. Gonna skip over the two prelim fights. I do believe that we're both on Taylor Malden pretty heavily. I would think in her fight though. It is on the prelims. I did bet her personally at minus 250 in one of my parlays. So I do like Taylor Malden against the 1 and 2 Nadine Madiao. But we're going to start with the main card. And, I love LFA, even if they do more of these than I care for. It's a catchweight bout, 140 between Ricky Furar and Jose Avalos. We saw Chris Avalos last week. I was on the wrong side of Chris Avalos, I'll say first and foremost. On his fight, you were on the right side. On the other side, I forgot the guy's name already.
My God, Jeff Craig, man. Jeff,
yeah.
I should have
very close, though. Yeah, you should have. It got a little close, but honestly, Craig kind of handled that one. We clearly know what the Avalos like to do. It seems they like to grapple. You got 6-2 versus 6-2 here at 140 here. The older Avalos and more regular Avalos in Jose fighting this week after getting his fight called last week, taking on the Iron Monkey and Ricky Furar out of Team Quest here. I'll break down Jose Avalos first. 6-2 was supposed to fight last week. Had a couple fights fall through, unfortunately, and now fights a 6-2 Ricky Furar this week at a catchweight bout of 140. Prior to that, was on a 3-fight win streak, 2 rear naked chokes on the 3 wins, had a win over a 13-4 Carlos Rivera with Combate Global by decision in August of this year. So he's been pretty regular, 2 fights in 2020, 1 fight in 2021. Was supposed to have a fight again last week that fell through. One of his losses coming by KO with LFA to Jeffrey Glossner. We know he's a hard hitter, and that was in his second fight ever. So other than that, got a triangle armbar finish in his other loss, but otherwise all finishes by submission here. I think we got a little bit of a preview of how Jose is going to kind of fight from last week with his brother. I think it's going to be takedowns and grappling first, striking very, very secondary. Ricky Furar here, the new opponent here, usually fights at bantamweight out of Team Quest, 31 years old for the Iron Monkey. 2 straight wins for him. Coming here, 1 to Brady Huang by split. Jacob Thrall, LFA kind of veteran. He beat him in kind of a gritty 3-round fight. I had a good fight with Kyle Estrada, but Kyle Estrada used one of his main weapons, which is the leg kicks, to actually get the finish in that one. I do remember that fight back in June of 2019. Has a fight with Bellator, has a few actually with Bellator, which wins Victor Rosa and Ramon Puga. Go ahead and break it down as I get control of the dogs.
Yeah, so, I mean, you pretty much broke down Jose pretty well. I mean, we know what he likes to do here. He likes to grapple. And, yeah, like you said, we kind of got a little preview of probably the way he's going to fight after seeing his brother last week. And he's coming up in a fight here against Ricky Furar, who, yeah, I mean, he's been all around. He's been on California Cage Wars a couple times, Bellator guy, kind of on the prelims. And, that Jacob Thrall is pretty good. Obviously, we've seen him a lot in LFA. I kind of like seeing that win on his record. Brady Huang also is pretty decent. And Kyle Estrada, the loss, is a good fighter as well. So this is a bit of a tough one for me to break down. Honestly, this got moved up to the main card. Kind of came together short notice almost. But yeah, this is honestly a tough one. I mean, I see people on Tapology really like Ricky Ferrar here. I'm not quite as enthusiastic about him, and I'm probably going to be passing on this fight. But I think just from a pure prediction standpoint, I'm probably going to just lean towards that side. But I mean, both guys are active, and both guys have been looking good. So it's going to be tough to call. I think it's going to be a close fight, and I'm going to ever so slightly lean towards Ricky Ferrar here, but not going to be a play for me.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry about my computer getting knocked over there. I'm glad it held on. Yeah, I think a lot of the love is just based on seeing how Chris Avalos did look pretty one-dimensional last week, and people just kind of equivalating one Avalos to the other. Yeah, I'll lean towards Jose just for the interesting disagreement. I think that maybe he learns from his brother's mistakes last week. And both guys are very good. And again, Ricky, the guys he's lost, his last loss, especially to Kyle Estrada, no shame there, and the good wins over guys like Victor Rosas, which has turned out to be a good win. Obviously, the Bellator experience and LFA experience, so good high level. I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky takes it. I'll take Jose, not when I'm betting though. So. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. Yeah, this one did get moved up to the main card a little bit last second. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few more changes before fight night. This kind of seems like one of those LFAs with a few changes going on. But next fight here, LFA, delivers at featherweight quite often. I think they've got a good featherweight opponent or fighter here in Javier Garcia, taking on Ryan Filingame, the Filipino product, I believe, is Ryan here now fighting out of Victorville, California with Team Diamond. 5'9" here for the Prince, 6'3", 6'3", I should say. Hasn't fought in a few years, I believe. Is in September of 2017. And he did lose that last fight. So that's just, tough. It was against Fernando Padilla. It was a 35-second knockout, though. Before that, had a split win over an 11-3 opponent before losing to Billy Quantillo. So 2 good losses there for him. Most of his wins aren't too notable, but again, he hasn't fought since about 2016, 2017. Some decent level opponents back then. Darren Smith, a 13-6 opponent, 11-3 opponent, lost to Fernando Padilla, but has not fought since 2017. Was supposed to come back and fight last week. It just got, I think, just changed or something got switched. But he's coming back and fighting a really tough opponent, Javier Garcia. I don't think a guy that you want to really come and fight off of 5+ years layoff. He's been very active, very regular, 7-4. Did lose his last bout out, I should say, to Bruno Souza. Close decision. Bruno Souza's went on to UFC before that. 3 straight wins, including 2 with LFA over AJ Cunningham, a fight I had him in, and Timothy Tevez. I ended up finishing him. Timothy Tevez, we bring up every single week on these breakdowns. The guy, he's good, I swear. He's got some wins, but most of the time we're talking about a guy beating him and why that matters. So Javier Garcia he goes in there, looks to make it dirty, looks to get the wrestling involved. Underrated submission game. Has his last 2 submission wins coming by triangle, which don't exactly love here, but taking on a guy who's been off since 2017. He's lost to guys like Gabe Green, Arud Prosagian, and Reston Wilson, all guys who are decent, as well as Bruno Souza. I think Javier is just in more of a rhythm. He is coming off of a loss, but again, to guys in the UFC now, 2017, way too long to be off. I think Javier goes in there, wrestles him, maybe gets a rear naked choke finish or submission finish, but otherwise wrestles him, rinse, repeat. For me, Javier Garcia, pretty confident.
Yeah, I agree with you on pretty much everything here. I mean, Garcia, does he have the most aesthetically pleasing record ever at 7-4? No, but like he is a good fighter. He's better than the record suggests. Like comes in LFA and defeats AJ Cunningham as a dog. That was a nice win.
Big dog.
Finished Tim Tevez with a rear naked choke in the 3rd round, and he probably needed it, to be honest. And he got it done. He never gives up. He's just a dog in there. He's always going to fight for your dollar. Like this isn't a guy that you have to worry about him folding up when it gets tough. Just saw him compete against Bruno Souza for the title in LFA and dropped him in round 1 and was looking really good. I mean, I was holding the Bruno Souza ticket there. I was sweating in the 1st round.
Yeah.
And at the end, I mean, he just couldn't keep up with the technical striking and the counter game that Bruno brings as the fight goes on. But another one of his losses, UFC fighter Gabe Green. Garcia is really durable. He has a really just kind of tenacious offense, and his compete level is really high, really durable guy. And he's been super active. This is going to be his 4th fight in 2021, and he's in good form, training at CSW in California. His opponent, Ryan, I mean, yeah, he has some good names on his resume. Billy Q, Fernando Padilla, like no shame in losing to those guys. But it's like, yeah, like you said, 2017. I mean, that's a long time to be off. And then you're coming back to face, Javier Garcia in his 4th fight of the year where he's, been probably looked as good as he ever has. I just think this is a bad spot for him. Don't like the layoff. Garcia's in peak form. And I think this is honestly a step down in competition for Garcia. So I'm going with Garcia. I love the activity level, and I think he beats Ryan this Friday.
Yeah, and it's still not available on my book, at least priced up yet. So I'm still waiting for Javier Garcia, but I would assume minus 500, honestly. Like, I just don't see that being a very closely lined fight.
Yeah, last time I checked, he was like minus 260, like around minus 200 something, which I think is a very parlayable piece. I haven't checked recently. I've been in the car for like 4.5 hours, so I'm not sure. But yeah, come fight day, I think it'll be a much heavier favorite.
Minus Garcia minus, and MMA Locker Room saying he trains with him. Yeah, I have all the respect for Javier Garcia. I think he's taken very little damage in 2021 in his 4 fights also. That's the thing, even in the losses. So, this is a very interesting next fight here at flyweight between 2 up-and-comers, Judo versus Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Jenna Bishop versus Diana Barboza here. Let me just get the time down. And, Jenna Bishop, Blue Dash, not sure why Bishop's a big favorite. I mean, she's a very well-established Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player. Also got very infamous, I guess you could say, for injuring Daniel Wolf's arm during grappling. So I think that all of a sudden people kind of knew who Bishop was because of these things. And that's all you kind of need to become a big favorite in a low-level women's MMA bout here. I will say right now, the odds on Bishop have gotten out of control. I think this is a very close fight. But Bishop, good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, 1-0 as an MMA fighter of Alliance Jiu-Jitsu in San Diego. So we know she's training with a lot of good girls, 35 years old, Jessica Penne, many others over there. So getting a lot of good running there. Beat Helen Lucero, who is a 1-2 opponent with LFA back in October. Rear naked choke very quickly. She went in there, looked very good. Ton of grappling experience we can see here. She's been there with some of the best. So Nikki Sullivan's of the world, Beatrice Mosquitas. So lots of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience as a pro. Didn't get to see a whole lot of her in her first fight. She did get the fight where she needed to. But this fight with Diana Barboza, much tougher opponent, much bigger opponent here, younger opponent here, 3-1, 29-year-old, 5'6" Brazilian Barboza, BH Rhinos. Did lose her last fight out, albeit to Josana Nunes. We saw how hard she hits against Bia Malecki. Poor Bia Malecki. Before that, a win over Karine Silva. Very good win there. We know Karine Silva is a very good opponent, 9-3 at the time of their fight. And also we obviously, we saw how Karine looked. She went on to Contender Series and got a win, got the finish there. She's had a ton of finishes. I mean, Diana Barboza was her last fight or her last loss before these 4 straight. So Barboza's been there with a good level of competition, went the distance with Silva in that fight, otherwise gets the finishes with her jiu-jitsu. Her judo is very, very strong here. I like Barboza in this position just based on the odds. I would have liked to see how she did against Flora and that last fight. I think that would have been telling, but Bishop just hasn't faced a whole lot of competition yet. Yeah, it's just I'm going to go with Barboza here just as the dog. It's a dog play. I think this is a very close fight. Bishop may come in here and look really good, but I'll go with the younger, stronger, more athletic Barboza.
Yeah, love it. Barbosa, yeah, like you said, she was supposed to fight Flora Hani here, and now she's got Bishop. So you're basically going from a great striker to a great grappler. So kind of a significant matchup change, but like Barbosa's 3-1 as a pro, win over Karine Silva, like you mentioned. And she fought Josie Nunez. That was her one loss. So she's fought 2 UFC fighters that are currently signed to the UFC, split them 1-1. And she won, 99% of that Nunez fight until she got finished. I mean, she easily won the first round, controlled her the whole time, controlled her basically the whole second round until, Nunez got up and knocked her into another dimension. But I mean,
which is just not how Bishop's going to win a fight.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just Josie Nunez. I mean, there's not too many people that want to stand with her. But yeah, Barbosa, like, I honestly like what I've seen so far. I mean, it's tough to see Bishop open up as a -600 favorite here when this line opened. Like, that's insane. She has one fight. Like, yes, she's a high-level black belt. Yes, she won the World No-Gi Championship. She won ADCC, USA, East Coast Trials. She won the Chicago Spring Open. She won an American Nationals as well back in her day. And
she injured Daniel Wolf. She injured Daniel Wolf.
She had like a Sean Strickland and an Orlando Sanchez type moment. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't understand why she's such a huge favorite. I mean, she has so many distinctions and in a really remarkable grappling career, of course, but she's 35 and she has one MMA fight. She got the rear naked choke in the first round. Like you mentioned, Helen Lucero, she's 1-2. I mean, of course. Right. So her strength is obviously the grappling, and she is weaker everywhere else. And obviously she's so strong in the grappling that it should be able to cancel out some deficiencies, but not enough to be like the favorite that she was. So I took a small piece of Barbosa at +400 when this line opened. Very small bet, but I don't really mind Bishop being the favorite, but just like the huge favorite that she is just makes no sense to me. I mean, we're talking about Barbosa, who went 1-1 against 2 UFC fighters. So yeah, I like Barbosa as the dog. Like you said, I think it's a close fight. I'm not necessarily expecting to win this bet, but I'm expecting to definitely be in the game for sure. So I'm going to go with Barbosa as the dog too.
It's gotten chiseled away, -230 now on Bishop, +175 on Barbosa. I still think is playable here for Barbosa. It is, judo versus jiu-jitsu, but I just think Barbosa has an athletic edge, and I think she's going to be able to hang in with regards to the grappling here. Once again, sometimes sometimes LFA just puts together a weird order of bouts here. They did it again. We got this strawweight 1-0 versus 1-0 here bout here between Alondria Brown and Sydney Trujillo. This is a super close fight. For me, that I've looked into a little bit, but there's not too much to look into. We got 1-0 versus 1-0. Sydney Trujillo, Sid Vicious. I'll be breaking down first here. 5'3", 64-inch reach for the Rounders MMA representative. Last fought in April of this year with LFA. Got a split decision against a fellow 0-0, Melissa Odessa Park. 3-1 as an amateur, getting 2 knockouts and a submission, losing to Juliana Miller on the Liddell Ortiz card. So it's fought with Combate, fought with LFA, and then the Liddell stage. So definitely some decent high stages here. But yeah, I mean, she, is a hard hitter for the most part, but kind of a little bit rough around the edges. I think Alondria Brown, 27 years old, 5'2", fighting on CSW, another CSW training representative here. So they have a few on this card. Also fought in LFA, went 3 rounds before getting the finish over her opponent by rear naked choke. Made a lot of errors as an amateur, looked a lot better in her pro debut than she did as an amateur, but she went 1-3 as an amateur. I lean towards Sydney Trujillo just a little bit because I just think that she's going to have a power advantage and be able to put on the pressure that way through the strikes. But I'm not going to bet or lose any money on this fight.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go about this one. Just take a pass here. Landry Brown, Sidney Trio, two 1-on-1 fighters. Brown's training at Eric Paulson's gym, CSW in Fullerton, which is the same place that Javier Garcia is training at. And she's 1-0 as a pro. Obviously got that sub on LFA over an opponent, also making her debut. There's just not that much footage of her out there. You know, she was a 1-3 amateur fighter. She looks still pretty green, but she is training at a good gym. I'm sure that they've had a good training camp there with, you know, two fighters being on this card. But Trio, you know, also 1-0 as a pro, had that pretty sick head kick knockout as an amateur on Kambache. And she goes to that head kick every now and again. I wouldn't be surprised to see her throw that against Brown. She's a pretty decent boxer. You know, she has a background there. It looks like she has some power, lands some big shots, looks pretty strong in the clinch, a little bit of wrestling too. Still very young, but looks very confident in the cage. Like, doesn't look like a deer in headlights at all. This is probably one of the ones where I just don't really have a great read, to be honest. So I'm going to lean towards the younger prospect in Sidney Trio. I like the boxing. I like that she kind of tries to mix it up with the wrestling a little bit too. She had a stronger amateur career, and I feel like she probably is the better fighter, but I think it's going to be a really close matchup. So
Yeah.
it's a pass for me on this one. I was looking maybe to see if I could convince myself to bet the dog here, but I just couldn't. So I'm going to end up passing on this one.
Yeah, Trujillo minus 150 plus 115 on Alondria Brown. Not going to be betting it too heavily on my end either. Yeah, I just think that it's one that we're going to sit back and watch. Third from the top, kind of interesting. Co-main event time here at 135. This is a really interesting fight to me between Leandro, I believe it's Hulk Gomez, taking on Askar here in the co-main event. This should be a very good clash of styles here. Askar definitely much more known for his stand-up out of Chicago, Illinois, for the Palestinian fighter, 5'7", 69.5-inch reach. Was signed by the UFC for half a second before he had weight issues or couldn't make the weight, and then they're like, never mind, we don't want you. Ended up going back to LFA and losing his next fight there also to Justin Wetzel. Justin Wetzel just kind of put the wrestling on him, used the ground and pound, and landed a real clean strike to Askar, who does appear has a little bit of a chin issue. Saeed Yoko Manov also knocked him out. I know he hits like a truck. There's no shame in that, but he did go down about 39 seconds in that one. And then with that next fight, he didn't make it to the second round. But really, once Justin kind of let go of the strikes, he did start to land. And it does seem Askar has some issues with his chin at times in his fights here. Other than that, mostly a striker. Finishes most of his fights with strikes. Didn't fight the highest level of competition prior to this. Good thing he didn't make the UFC. Cody Stamen would have killed him. Absolutely. No shame there. I'll be right back. Go ahead and break it down for me, your thoughts. I'll be right back. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, good. Yeah, so Leandro Gomez, Askar, bantamweight bout. Gomez is a Kings MMA product. He's on a 4-fight win streak, 3 of them in LFA, and he's finished 4 out of 6 wins, but the last 2 have been, you know, hit the scorecards by decision. And he came into the LFA, you know, 3-1, coming off a win on Gladiator Challenge, which is kind of just, when I see someone coming off that promotion, they're normally just fade city, but he proved everyone wrong against Anthony Jimenez there. Not many people thought he had much of a chance, and he was able to sub him with a knee bar in the first round. You know, he likes to use those kicks at range. He will switch stances pretty often to get some different looks, and he has decent stand-up. I mean, it's not great. Sometimes he swings a little wild. Head movement leaves a little bit to be desired at certain points, but I really do think there is a possibility that he could clip Askar and put him down, because like you mentioned before, Askar has gone down pretty quickly in fights in the past, and we've seen him have a little bit of, I don't want to, really come out and say he has durability issues, but there's been cause for concern in that department. And I've seen Gomez pull guard to get to the ground in the past, because obviously, he has the credentials down there. He wants to be down there. I'm not a really big fan of pulling guard. I just don't like guys that are happy to be off their back, but Gomez is good. He definitely has a grappling edge here, and I think that's going to be key for him in this matchup. I don't think that he's really going to want to be standing against Askar for too long. I mean, there's just no point when you probably have a better advantage on the ground. And Yuma Horiguchi, who we just saw, was probably the best fighter that Gomez has faced, and he won a really close split decision there Honestly, that one could have went either way. 2:29.28 for Leandro, and the other scorecard was a 30:27 for Horiuchi. Really close one. Oscar, 11-2 record. More experience, although he is the younger guy. And he had a nice amateur career, and he's put together a pretty good pro career as well. He lost his fight. First ever loss came in his 11th pro fight against Said Yakub Kakramanov. Obviously, he's a UFC fighter now. And he headlined an LFA card right after that, picked up a win over Kevin Wirth, who was 8-1. And he lost his last appearance against Elevation product Justin Wetzel, as you pointed out, and Oscar was a minus 300 favorite or something like that in that fight. And now coming in as the dog to Juliandro Gomez. There was that thing where he signed by the UFC, but the doctors found some abnormality with his heart, and then they released him or whatever happened. He got the all clear from a different doctor, and he's a pretty good striker. I mean, I think he's a pretty good chance on the feet here, pretty good output, nice kind of persistence to his offense. I'm interested to see what the clinch is going to look like here. Oscar is pretty solid in the clinch. But yeah, I see Gomez for some takedowns around, and I think this is going to be a close fight, and I guess I'll pick Gomez here. I think he does have the grappling upside, and I just don't know if I really trust him at this price. I mean, Oscar at plus 200 or better seems kind of juicy. I mean, he was minus 300 in his last fight against a good prospect, and now he's plus 200 here. He opened up at plus 120. I think that's probably more around where he should be. If the line just keeps flying in the direction that it's going now, maybe I'll have a tiny piece of Oscar, but I think I'm going to pick Gomez, but I'm honestly not too confident here. So I don't think I'm going to have to play on this fight.
Yeah. I mean, we saw with Kevin Wirth in that fight when Askar is not as concerned with the power and the striking of his opponent, he really can quite flow and do really well. So then it really comes down to how good of a wrestler is Gomez. I haven't seen huge advantages of him being this dominant wrestler. Askar, I'm not saying he's UFC level, but he's on the UFC's radar for a reason, I think. And I think this is a little bit of a reaction from the bettors here. I think that he's a very live dog here. I don't think that Gomez has the power on his feet to necessarily get the respect of Askar and get Askar out of his game necessarily. And if the wrestling's not there for Gomez, then Gomez is in a striking bout with Askar, and the odds flip, I think, in that case. I think Askar takes this one. I think he plus 200. I feel comfortable betting him. And I think that, it was closer to plus 120. It should have been, I think, a pick 'em, frankly.
I agree with you 100%. I think if you're going to bet this one, you kind of have to bet Oscar. I don't really think that there's any value on like almost minus 300 on Gomez.
Yeah, I just think, people are like, oh, he almost got signed to the UFC, then he got knocked out. Justin Wetzel, really good, sneaky guy there. I think I'm surprised he wasn't on the Contender Series, frankly, but I think he'll be headlining or getting an opportunity to fight with the UFC soon. So I got Askar at plus 200 here. I do think that if it's a stand-up bout, that is Askar all day, and the odds should be nearly flipped. I mean, you look at the Yuma Horiuchi fight. I went back and watched that fight, and I did have it for Yuma Horiuchi.
Yeah, so did I.
And I'm not exactly sure how it wasn't. So, that is kind of a little misleading. Jacob Thrall going a decision with him in his last fight. This is a very different level of opponent to Jacob Thrall, with all due respect. Jacob Thrall he's a gamer, but he's called the Gerber baby, I think is his nickname. And he's just kind of a scrappy wrestler. And Askar is very, very sharp on the feet. And Yuma Horiuchi is a good man. Yeah, I agree. Blue Dash, he is very, very good. But this takes us to the main event of the evening here. Miss Loveth, Loveth Young, I should say, taking on Jacqueline Amariem for the vacated strawweight LFA title. I mean, those decisions will start going his way, or he'll get better, Blue Dash. But Jacqueline Amariem versus Loveth Young here. Definitely a fight we've had our eyes on since the odds came out for it. The odds came out pretty crazy here with Loveth Young at plus 300, which is just nuts. 3-1 Loveth Young, 32 years old, 5'2", 63.5-inch reach, fighting out of LA. I'll be breaking down the Nigerian Terminator first. Accurate nickname indeed. That is exactly what she is. She's an absolute beast. Johnny Walker, one of her coaches. Not sure if that's the Johnny Walker. I'm going to assume that. Gomez Jiu-Jitsu last fought in January of this year with LFA, getting an impressive knockout of Kelly D'Angelo. Before that, took on the debuting Rena Norville, knocked her out in the first round, clean shots, had a really great fight with Vanessa Demopoulos back in 2020. Rear naked choke of Cynthia Arceo. I mean, she's fought very good. All 4 of her fights are against legit competition. Went 2-0 as an amateur, being a 4-0 opponent and 1-0 opponent. Absolute powerhouse, really good, well-rounded opponent. Good jiu-jitsu, had a good reversal against Cynthia Arceo to get that win. Was supposed to fight Tiani Valle as well. This girl just goes and fights savages over and over again. Built like an absolute specimen, hits harder than anybody at 115 in LFA for sure. And has good grappling as well. Jacqueline Amariem, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, 26 years old, 5'3", 4 straight wins for her out of Checkmat, Charleston, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Last fought in July of this year, beating Megan Owen, knocked her out with 1 clean punch. Before that, rear naked choke of Taisha Gandhi, who looked, kind of lost in there, honestly. Paulina Farias and Luana Noguera, very inexperienced, finished both of those opponents. By far her toughest test to date here in Loveth Young, and going to have a huge speed and strength disadvantage to Loveth here. And the jiu-jitsu probably will go Jacqueline's way, but I just don't know how she gets it to the ground against Loveth. I just don't see it. And even down there, I think Loveth can do enough to survive. She's had good sweeps in her fight with Cynthia Arceo. And just overall, I just think she's the better fighter here. I like Loveth Young all day in this fight from when it was announced. I just think Jacqueline Amariem has shown she has good jiu-jitsu, but we just don't really know what happens when the jiu-jitsu doesn't work. I mean, she got that quick knockout on the 1 strike. That's not going to happen against Loveth Young. This is going to go deep. Probably 3-4 rounds deep at least. And, we saw with the Vanessa Demopoulos fight, Loveth can give and take. We don't know with Jacqueline yet. I got Loveth Young here.
Yeah, I'm not going to get any arguments from me there. I mean, Jacqueline Amariem, I'll give her some credit. I mean, extremely successful jiu-jitsu player, New York Spring International Open champion, Atlanta International Open champion, placed at many other events. And at the purple and brown belt level, she was a world champion in both gi and no gi. And she uses that grappling, to win her fights, as you might expect. She has yet to have a fight go over 2 minutes, 4-0, 3 round 1 subs and 1 knockout. She fought 2 fighters making their debut, 1 fighter with a losing record. And she had her last fight with Megan Owen where she flatlined her 10 seconds in. And the fight was really over before it started there. I still think Amorim probably would have won that one, but I would have liked to see that one go a little longer just to try to get a little bit more information about her. But just so far, I mean, her fights have just, her opponents look like they don't really want to be there. And she just kind of slices through the guard like a knife through butter and gets a submission. She will have a nice reach advantage here over Young. I mean, Amorim has a 67.5-inch reach, which is pretty long for 115 pounds, and that's definitely going to help with her grappling, but I'm really not convinced about the stand-up game. Yeah, she had the 10-second knockout, but she's going to have to do a little bit more than that over Megan Owen to convince me. Young, the Nigerian Terminator, as you pointed out, is a very apt nickname. Made her pro debut against Cynthia Arceo, who we've seen in LFA before, and she was 4-0 at the time. So she jumped into the deep end, into deeper water in her first ever fight than Amorim ever has, 4 fights in now. And, obviously that fight ended as a draw on a split technical decision because of that accidental eye poke. And then they did the rematch, and Loveth Young got the round 1 rear naked choke. And really tough debut fight there. Her next fight, she lost a decision to Vanessa Demopoulos. No shame there. I mean, one of the best LFA strawweights we've seen over the past few years, and obviously now on the UFC roster. So next fight, she kind of gets a bit of a step down against Rena Norville. KOs her in round 1. Just fought Invicta veteran Kelly D'Angelo in January, won on punches in the second round. Both these fighters here have a 100% finish rate. I just think that Loveth Young is doing it against much better competition. I think she hits way harder, way better standing, more physical, more athletic. I mean, her physique is pretty wild. She's very muscular, the fast twitch muscle fiber. And if this fight stays standing, I mean, I think this should be Young all day. I think she's the better fighter by far. I think she hits way harder. She'll have to close the distance on the longer fighter in Amorim, but I think she'll be able to do that. Young is pretty fast and likes to touch you up with the jab, really firm right hook. And I think that Young is going to show Amorim her first bit of adversity here. I think Amorim is going to be a little bit discouraged when she feels that power. And I think that, Young is just going to live up to her nickname and find a finish here. So I bet Young, as soon as the line dropped, plus 300, like that's a completely ridiculous line. That might be the best bet I've made all year, to be honest. She got down to like a minus 200 favorite. I think she regressed a little bit to like minus 135. I saw minus 160 some places. Yeah. So I mean, I even like her at those prices, to be honest with you. I got Loveth Young all day here.
Yeah, it was not available on my book at that price, but I still got Loveth up to probably about minus 170. And yeah, I just think, everything you said, the overall experience, the strength, the well-roundedness, it should all edge in Loveth's way. It's too bad Carly Pangolin had to get taken off of the fight card. I was really looking forward to him against
Victor that fight was going to be a banger, I think.
Yeah, whenever Carly gets back, I'll be signed up for that all day. Put him against Mark Kilomako. Why not? Make it just, make those guys fight each other.
Man, that would be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, but either way, I think this is a pretty good LFA. I do like my dog is Askar. I like that. I also do like Diana Barboza over Bishop. Otherwise, I expect mostly the favorites here to take it on my card. So should be a good Friday with the Bellator and the LFA. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., I'll be doing the UFC breakdown show with Dave Van Auken. And so join us for that. Bellator breakdowns on the channel. Lucky Locks will have his LFA picks up if he doesn't already. If you kind of want a quicker, more succinct go through, it's usually like under 15 minutes, his videos, so they're awesome. Leave out all the bullshit that I talk about. But yeah, other than that, anything coming up for you, Lucky?
Yeah, that's going to do it for me. Best of luck on all your bets this weekend, everyone. We got a big weekend, LFA, Bellator, UFC. So, best of luck. Hopefully we make some money, and hopefully we hit some dogs on LFA this Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. At least those two would be great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. For Lucky, for Aarron the Dog, we are out until I think there's one coming up in the next week or two. But if there's an LFA coming up, we're going to do it on here on the channel. So take care, everybody. Enjoy the fights, and we are out. Peace.